Hey guys, Bryan with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana with another collector spotlight episode. And today we're shining the light brightly on Noah Davis, who is, and I think I can safely say this, you can't use this term loosely, Noah, but I can definitely call you an Hakeem Olajuwon super collector. Is that fair?
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
I think that's fair to say. Okay, in your most humble response, yes, it's fair to say I am a super collector. Duh, but that is a title that I think we throw around way too loosely. The other day, somebody called me a super collector. I was like, y'all are crazy. Jordan super collector means something, right? The super collector term means something to me. I'm a collector, but there's some whales out there. You are a whale amongst whales on the Olajuwon front, and I'm super excited to have you on because a lot of the people that watch my channel often ask me about the Olajuwons, about the David Robinsons, the Reggie Millers, the Grant Hills, the Vinces, the Pennies, and all that stuff, and they want to hear your story about how you got to where you are in the Hakeem Olajuwon card collecting world. So I appreciate you joining us out west in California. Let's start with this. I'm bad at this, but I'm starting to get better at remembering. Noah, I'm going to screen share here. I think I am. No, I'm not. Now I am. Hang on. I am going to screen share for the world. So before we forget, this is Noah on Instagram, NJJ_sports, collector of Hakeem Olajuwon, Michael Jordan playing years. You know I love that. Great 90s inserts in Houston Astros greats, which I can identify with a little bit because Houston was as close as you could get to Louisiana for having a Major League Baseball team. We don't have one here in Louisiana. So we're going to kind of go in that order, man. We're going to talk a little bit about Olajuwon, then we'll talk about your Jordan stuff. Then we're going to talk about some great 90s Astros and some Astros cards, if that's okay with you. And let's not waste any more time. Tell me your story, man. I mean, it's a blank canvas. Tell us how you got to where you are, who you are, and how you fit in the hobby.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Bryan. So first of all, I'm excited to be here because, my story actually, I collected as a kid. I'm probably in the same age range as you are. Grew up in Houston, Texas. Grew up in the 90s. Was really my 94, 95. Being a Houston Rockets fan. Just I mean, who knows what would have happened if Jordan was still there? But I'm safe to say I would have loved to see it. Right.
Yes.
The worst game ever was when Stockton hit the three over I think it was Barkley to send them to the finals instead of the Rockets.
Yeah.
I would love to see the Rockets versus the Bulls, but it is what it is. But I collected as a kid. Really nothing really big. I look back at my collection. There wasn't anything really great. Jordan. Not Rocket stuff. But then I got re-engaged like a lot of people did around COVID. And honestly, you're one of the main reasons I did. I got to thank you because I started following you really early on.
Okay.
When you were early when you had a lot less subscribers than you do now. But I really I love. There's not a lot of people at that time or even now talking about 90s basketball, Jordan, whatever. I mean, it's I love that stuff. I can listen to it all day. I love when you bring on other collectors. Some of my favorite, honestly, is when you bring on Nat. I love to hear what he's such a passionate collector of the 90s.
Yeah.
And so, I started, just getting into it, doing the same thing with, I think a lot of people do when they start getting, I got into breaks early on. I thought, I knew what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I wanted to pick a niche. So in 2020, I said, let me pick a niche. Olajuwon was my favorite player. And, I just started buying. And so, I wanted to, so over the years since then, over the past 4 or 5 years, I think I've kind of accumulated about 700 or 800 slabs, Olajuwons. And my goal has been, yes, I'm a set collector. So if you're going to ask that question, I do.
I love that question. I love your answer. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it too.
yeah. So I'm on the master set. I'm on the. I've completed. Completed the basic one. I'm on the master. I'm actually number two. There is somebody who is who ranks higher, and I've met this person. I know who this person is, and they just started collecting much earlier on than me and has everything in a PSA 10. But it is what it is. And but I try to collect. I am kind of a grade snob. I do try to get everything in highest grade possible. The goal is the PSA 10. But sometimes, if there are certain kinds of cards, I'll take whatever I can get. But along the way, I really, was following you. I did the 2012 Prism set. So in PSA 10, I got up to, I knew you were doing it, and I was like, wow, this is a great set. It's such an iconic set, and I started doing it, and I got up until about, I had like 7 or 8 left. And some people contacted me and said, I want these cards. And I ended up selling a lot of them and doing very well off of it. But
Yeah.
I did that. I did, other great sets. I did the 98 Molten Metal Fusion set.
Oh, yeah.
So that was, I'm working on the 97 Metal Universe PSA 10 base set.
How close are you on that? I saw some stuff on your Instagram. I have a buddy here in Baton Rouge trying to do the same thing.
Yeah,
So I
there's
need to put y'all in touch. If y'all have not talked, I need to put you in touch with them because maybe y'all could help each other. How many you got out of was it 125?
I have a long way to go.
Yeah.
I just bought a big raw set of about
Yep.
500 cards in Metal Universe, but I've got a ways to go. They're just a lot harder to get, and they're but it's just the most beautiful set in my opinion.
It's an attainable number. It's no coincidence. 86 fleers right there, right? So 143 total, 132 base, 11 stickers. The Metal Universe sets, it's 125, right? 2 checklists, is that right?
It's 125 with 2, 123 with 2 checklists, yeah.
Yeah. So it's different than the 86 fleer, because you're going to end up, there's going to be cards that you have in there, maybe a checklist that's worth a quarter, but you're going to pay $20 to grade it to shoot for a 10. So but you've done that before. You did it with the 2012 Prism set. I know you had to have because I did it. Yeah, so I'm sending in dudes that, it may have a pop 0 in PSA 10 or pop 2, 3, whatever. And so we may spend $100, throw 5, shoot 5 bullets out the gun, and hopefully we hit a PSA 10 with one of them. It's kind of funny. Yeah. How set collecting goes, but that's exciting, man. So what an iconic set. I've said it how many times on the channel, Noah, if you've listened, that I think is the premier set from the 1990s. That Metal Universe set and the base inserts, the parallels that go with it. It just checks every box in my mind.
And I think I've always struggled with this dilemma as an Olajuwon collector, and I think a lot of people who are player collectors other than the big 3, other than Jordan, LeBron, and Kobe, I think you struggle with, am I putting too much money into one place and it's not as liquid? And, when I did my Jordan collecting also started around the time that I started watching you. And I really focused on PSA 10s, and I built it up to I had about 350 Jordan, plain years PSA 10s, some great inserts, and I ended up at the time I needed some liquidity, and it was extremely easy to sell. I had some great cards. I hit records on, I was selling through Fanatics, of course, using the Cajun Cardboard, Kajun. But yeah, so I had some great inserts, and I bought it at a time, there was a lot of opportunity. You could buy on Facebook groups.
Sure.
Great, unbelievable inserts that I was focusing on really low pop, inserts. Like I had the PSA of Rain Man, I had the Legacies, I had the mid tier, nothing, Grail level, kind of, on your kind of tier 3 range. Yeah. But that was, that's what I built up to, but I struggle at being an Olajuwon collector because I do know that I could never, I am, I do track it. I use Card Ladder. I track everything. Sure. But I struggle with, am I putting too much into one place? So I have to balance it every time I want to buy, let's say an Olajuwon, I'll try to buy something else that I know is more liquid, like a Jordan. I do baseball, I do other things like that, but really, it's also treated as an investment. So I think of it that way.
Well, the beautiful thing about, I love the price point on Olajuwon, obviously, we talk about this all the time, and I had somebody on the channel, I had Coleman Cards on the channel yesterday, and we were kind of talking about the players that are out there. There's some players whose card values exceed their on-court exploits, right? Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the Penny Hardaways, the Vince Carters. And I'm not saying they were bad players, but their
Right.
card values are like elite, top 10
Yeah.
type stuff. And then there's some players like a Tim Duncan and a David Robinson and a Olajuwon, a Reggie Miller, some of those guys, maybe even a Dirk, whose cards are lagging behind how important they are historically and what they accomplished and what their paper resume looks like. Olajuwon is clearly at or near the very top of that list of players whose card prices aren't quite where they are. So you got to have at least some sense of comfort. You're buying Olajuwon, you're not buying Victor Wembanyama, you're not buying Amen Thompson, you're not buying, another Rocket. You're not buying these guys that you're hoping they do something. We all know what Olajuwon's done. The problem is a lot of people forgot what he did, and I think that's the issue. But the beautiful thing about a guy like Olajuwon, or just collecting 90s, mega goats to begin with, is you don't need 8,000 people to want Olajuwon cards to liquidate a really big Olajuwon card. You just need 2,
Right.
And there's 2 other Noahs out there, trust me, who would want an essential credentials or one of your, spoiler alert, masterpiece one of ones. You are never ever gonna have trouble finding a buyer for those. Start with me, for God's sakes, if you're looking to move one. Do this. So before I forget, tell me, the wall behind you is obviously you got me beat. In my background, I just got this cheap banner. Talk to me about what's in that wall in the background. I see some of them are horizontal and some of them are vertical. Are those horizontal cards that are horizontal in the background?
A lot of them, those are, but I had to pull down some to show, so I replaced them. But I have it actually all around the room. It's all, even more. But these, I love these things. These are made for cards for, either PSA or BGS or SGC.
Yeah.
They hang really nicely on the wall. And, the reason, I love, look, I vault and I do this. So I do both, but I had them all in the vault at one time, and it just really, I wanted to see it. I wanted to be around it. And, it gave something to the room. And, so I chose to bring home some of them and kind of put them on the wall. But I think it's, I love, I get questions all the time when I'm doing work, and people say, "Oh, what is that? What do you collect?" So it's fun. But yeah, I've got horizontal, I've got, whatever. And I try to group them in different years if I can. But I also realize that, I've got teenage boys, and they know who Olajuwon is, they know who Jordan is and everything like that. But when they bring their friends over, they don't really, so I have to pepper it with different, sometimes more recent stuff, some other players to get them, so there's a level of interest there. But yeah.
What percentage of your PC you think is Olajuwon?
Dollar
volume wise, kind of just generally speaking, because I just did this exercise where I wanted to kind of recalculate where I'm at in my sports card sort of collection, and I broke it down. I did percentages. I used Fanatics Collect Vault to do it, but you got Card Ladder, you could probably do it, like that.
Yeah, in volume, it's definitely 70%, but in value, it's probably 60%. And I'm the goal is, I'd like it to be probably 40% to 50%. I love set collecting. I really, over time, my goal is to, ideally start with the Olajuwon from a set. Have, if it has a Jordan, like I did this with, Flair hot numbers, Flair new heights, I'd get the Jordan and the Olajuwon, and then, I've got some tough ones done. I can go do the rest.
Yeah.
So, I just love set collecting. I love the 90s. There's just,
I do too.
It's amazing.
I don't know why it hasn't caught on more, Noah. I mean, I know there are folks like us out there that do it, but I just feel like it should be way more popular. Insert sets specifically, parallel sets are a little tougher. Base sets, are very tough. And sometimes that doesn't. Base sets sometimes don't make financial sense. Insert sets almost always make financial sense. You're going to be okay in the long run. Because it's the goats. It's usually the goats. A couple imposters here and there. But usually, 8 out of 10, you're talking about some damn good players. You can be all right long term,
Yeah, and I mean it's great to be able to collect. If you're able to go off the insert set, you're able to collect players you would never collect, but they're collectible because of the set.
Yeah,
I'm not sure you're going to see that nowadays as much as you saw in the 90s. I think there's a lot of nostalgia for people, and all those players, they remember them. the sixth men, the seventh men coming off the bench. They still know who they are.
Yep.
Because we remember, you remember every Sunday the NBA on NBC.
God, that song.
I love that song. It's just you think you see it, it just brings back emotion. And like, unfortunately, I don't feel that today with what the NBA, but back then it just like you just want to be around it all the time. And luckily the NBA was so strong back in the 90s that I think there's a lot of people out there, and eventually as Fanatics works its magic and PSA gets better at the set registry, I think they're really it's challenged the set registry, in terms of managing it. I think as it gets better, I think you're going to have more set collectors and it will be more collectible.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I dabble in it. I'll push and sprint into the Jordan world, and then I'll see price tags on PSA 10s, or some cards that I still need, and I'm like, and then I'll go start the Beam Team set, or I'll go start your New Heights set, or freaking Flyers set, and it's a relatively, I've already got the Jordan, right? So it's a relatively affordable, kind of side PC, side pathway that you can do on a pretty decent little budget. You don't have to go crazy, especially if you're living in the Jordan world or the crazy high-end Olajuwon world. It's, set collecting is the least of our concerns financially. Where do you stand on the Olajuwon rookie card? We hear, I don't want to go too deep into this, right? Because we'll have star pumpers, threaten me and try to kill me. But where are you? I know you've got both. I'm not asking what grade you have each one in. Talk me through that. What do you think about it? Where do you stand? The sticker and the Fleer, but then also the star. Where are you at on how that kind of fits in?
So it's clear that the star is an important card, and I haven't acquired it yet. I do want to get one. I think it's important. And like you said, the prices will come down. But I think it's a critical card. If you're a collector of that player, you need to have that card. I think the hobby has clearly moved in the direction where there's enough people who've identified it as the rookie card. But the 86 Fleers is always going to be also the rookie card. I mean, just like in baseball, there are years where there are rookie cards for multiple years just because of the way
Jeter comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of players. I think Kershaw, Verlander, some of those players had the same thing.
Yeah,
and it just will be the way it is, and that's fine. They're great cards to have, and I love the fact that they're so limited, and that once you get one, I'm not going to have 300,000 of them out there. You're going to have a few thousand out there, and I think if you're a collector, it's worth pursuing.
So you're a PSA. This is my question. So you're a PSA set registry guy. Mm-hmm. You collect in the same era that I collect. Mm-hmm. I wonder if you've run into the same problem. What percentage of your collection is in a BGS slab?
Well, again, I really pursued. I've always been a set collector. I mean, I've always been a PSA set registry person from the very beginning. So I always gravitated towards stuff in those slabs. But of course, I've acquired cards in BGS slabs, and and some I've switched over, and some I've kept that are just too scary to. I have a PMG and in a BGS slab, and it's that one right there.
Yeah.
So, I'm hesitant. I want to put it in the registry, but I'm hesitant to. I know I'm going to get knocked down 2 grades, when I do it. So is it really worth me doing that?
You and I, man, it's like I'm in the same boat. Like I would love everything. I am as numbers driven, stat nerd city, set completionist. I mean, you and I sound like we're kindred spirits. Mm-hmm. I would love nothing more than to figure out where do I stand in this world of Michael Jordan card collecting on the PSA set registry. But damn it, Noah, like literally half the value of my collection is in BGS slabs, even including my biggest of the biggest, and it drives me crazy. And I don't think I could look up there and be 24th, knowing that if I just crossed these over, I would be like 8th or something like that. I just can't do it. Does that ever keep you up at night? You ever bother you? Like, I mean, I know you don't want to cross it over because it could get damaged, or it could likely it would be a PSA 7. That would bother you more than just knowing, hell, I might be able to catch this dude who's number 1 if I can cross this thing over.
I don't. I guess it doesn't bother me as much. I think I would, because there's so few on my list. And the Olajuwons, there's a couple guys who are really, in the same sphere collecting that we
Yeah.
are. I think if I were in your position, it would definitely drive me nuts, because I started on the master set for Jordan, and I got to about 5-6%, and I was, I was moving. But yes, that would drive me nuts if I was, and you're clearly a very competitive person. So
Yeah.
I would say that it's better that you're not on it. You're saving a lot of money, and you're doing the
Yeah.
smart thing by getting BGS 95s, in minimum grades or whatever.
Yeah.
Long term, it's going to pay off for you. I think there will be, maybe down the road, there'll be a combined set registry at some point.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be amazing if they figured out a way to weight it or do whatever y'all got to do? Matt, maybe that happens if, the aforementioned BGS gets acquired by PSA, which is probably not out of the question. Yeah,
Right.
I don't know anything for sure, but it's not out of the question. They don't seem to be trending in the right direction, and PSA seems to be gobbling up everything, collectors gobbling up everything in their past. So who knows, man? Maybe one day, maybe they'll acquire it like they acquired SGC, but they left SGC alone, right? And so SGC is still grading, but they're under the parent company collectors. So maybe they can do the similar kind of thing, and then we get our combined set registry. Man, if there was a combined set registry where they kind of fused SGC, PSA, and BGS, I think it would set the hobby on fire.
Yeah.
Set it on fire. I'd be in. I mean, I got a lot of cards to catch up on and plug in, but I'd go. I'd start right now, day one. You tell me there's combined, I'm in.
Yeah.
I
agree. Awesome. I think the set registry is the thing that definitely vaulted PSA. It's one of the things that just made PSA create this little monopoly for them.
Best in class. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best Olajuwon card in existence?
Well, I think it's, even though I think masterpieces
are. You can say it. No, I know you. I know what you want to say. You can say it.
I agree with you. I would say that, but would I trade it for a PMG green? I don't have a PMG green. I know one person who has one, but I think I love the fact when you had Nat on, and I remember him talking about his masterpiece. He's like, "This is my favorite." I was like, "Oh yes, that's me too." But I think this is the best one of one. I'd love to see. I've never seen the Gem Masters one of one.
Yeah.
I know I've seen a few others that are out there, but to me, this is the most beautiful one of one. Awesome. Yeah. So.
It is awesome. There's something about just instead of putting a serial number on the back, they put a damn complete sentence. Like there's something just badass about it, I've just got I don't have obviously a 101 masterpiece Jordan because Nat's got it, but I've got the Legacy Jordan, and it's one of my favorite cards,
Yeah.
I think it's up there. It's certainly in the conversation. So right now, someone approaches you with a PMG green, PSA 6. You doing that deal?
It's probably not, but if somebody said, "Here's a price for the PMG green," I would, I look at cards that anybody would buy, like PMGs and cards that are part of sets, essential credentials, very differently in investment. Like it doesn't bother me to buy that and not buy another card, because I know that people are always chasing the credentials, the PMGs and everything. So to me, like that's a sound investment, not just as a collector. So I would, if that came up, I'm hoping it doesn't come right now, because I was about to say it feels like you don't want that. I don't want to have to kill myself to figure it out. But it's when I see Grails pop up on different sites, I'm always have my eye out there.
Yeah. Do you ever go backwards on Olajuwon? You ever consolidate to go get another one, or you just try to find more money somewhere else to go buy the card? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if the big old credentials came along, or maybe another 101 in playing years, Olajuwon comes along and you don't have it. Would you ever consider, hey man, I got to let these 35 other Olajuwons go to get this one? Is that something you do? I don't do that very often. I did it sort of in a horizontal move, but I don't do that very often. I was just curious if you're of like mind.
No, I won't move Olajuwons to get another Olajuwon. I'll move other players. Like I did move Jordans. I sold some baseball stuff when I wanted to go. When I got some of these cards, I moved some stuff, and I moved stuff that I'm not as passionate about. Like it's a transaction. right? So if the value, and if I sold, I sold the 2012 Prism set, that was, I was okay to go. And
Yeah.
so I'll move other things, and that's why I think it's important to keep collecting other things, because you need some liquidity. You need to, and I also know that I could never. It would be, very, very hard to sell my Olajuwon stuff, because you can't. There's only so much demand for it. There's only, and but the things that bother me on the Olajuwon stuff are, like 87 Fleer or 87 Fleer sticker. Getting those in tens are, you're working with people who are set collectors, and it's not so much the inserts, it's those early year cards that are really hard to get.
Yeah, and high grade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Olajuwon exquisite stuff. You touch it? You mess with it?
Not yet. I haven't, and I wouldn't see it the same way, and I see it kind of the same way you do.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing, and when people have those Olajuwons and Robinson together or whatever on exquisite, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
To me, I love just plain years, pack pulled stuff. So autographs, like Olajuwon signed a lot. Like he signs a lot. But I only collect, I'll collect his autographs as part of the plain years. So
Yeah.
pack pulled autographs that. But I would look at. I'd rather have a Jordan exquisite than I would have an Olajuwon exquisite. It wouldn't mean as much to me.
Yeah, it sounds like we're on the same page with that too. Like, absolutely can totally appreciate people who have dove in 100% into the exquisite stuff for Jordan, for Olajuwon, for LeBron, for Kobe, and those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I got so much work left to do on the stuff that I care more about, the 90s stuff, So I can't even get there yet. I've just got too much meat on the bone here in the 90s inserts and parallel world to even get there. What's big? What are some big? I mean, we talked about the PMG green. Obviously, that's alluded to. What PMG red?
Yeah, I don't have it yet. I've had opportunities, but I don't want to buy an authentic one. I'd want a graded one. I'd look at a 6 in that range. So
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing that when I know you sold the Jordan rookies, the PS10s, which you can go get it at any time.
That's right.
And the PMG red you can go get. They're out there. You can find them. There's no rush. I think at some point I'll do that. But I'm scared if I do that, I'll want to do that set. And so that's.
I've been there, done that, baby.
Yeah, I don't.
It almost, it was like it. And my friend took it over when he bought. Two friends kind of split my set, and then they each completed the set. It was really a crazy story.
Mm-hmm.
That I did a little deal about it on the channel, but. I told my buddy, I was like, look, I'm going to sell you these, these cards, but I am also going to warn you, this is going to cause you a great deal of anxiety. It's going to cause you a great deal of anxiety. I think if you get to the finish line, you're going to feel really, really good about it.
Mm-hmm.
But getting there, it's going to cause you problems, because he thinks like me, we like to sprint. We don't like to pace ourselves. And it's not something you can really sprint through, because you're digging in the weeds, you're grasping in the shadows, trying to find Chris Childs PMG cards. And you know what? Guess who's probably got that? Some psychotic, wonderful, beautiful New York Knicks collector who probably thinks it's worth twice as much as you do. You know what I'm saying? For me, it's a common. For him, it's a grail. So it was a blessing and a curse, but it was a blast. And I learned so much about PMG Reds and about the PMG Red market. I felt like a master of the market at one point, and I do kind of miss that. I only have one PMG Red left, but at least I got the one I care the most about. Where's Olajuwon all time? Let's talk about basketball. Let's talk about Olajuwon as a basketball player. Where do you have him? I mean, he certainly we'll safely say top 10 centers of all time. Now let's work our way down. Olajuwon or Shaq? Is he ahead? Is he behind Wilt Chamberlain? I would say yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's and I end up in arguments with people about Shaq. I mean, look, Shaq, you look at his. I mean, he was dominant, in what he did. He was just a different kind of player. Mm-hmm. I think when people make the comparisons with Olajuwon and Robinson, I was definitely surprised. I watched your episode on the comparison.
What'd you think about that? Yeah.
I was surprised. I definitely. I don't remember. I never remember being that close.
I don't either.
In the 90s, Olajuwon was always the better player, but I just think Olajuwon turned it on in the playoffs. I mean, if you look at his playoff performances, the moves, that the iconic moves, when you see the replays against Robinson, I mean, they're just his most iconic moves of all time, the fakes and everything like that. I mean, I don't think people appreciate the dream shake. And when he was in his prime and he was doing dream shakes from almost the 3-point line behind the basket, going over the basket, I mean, they just, so yes, I think he's probably behind Shaq. It's hard to say.
Kareem, Wilt, Shaq, maybe, probably.
Yeah.
Olajuwon. I mean,
yeah, Olajuwon, and then
I mean, Bill Russell's the big wild card, right? Because it's like, how old are you? What do you care the most about? Do you care about rings? Do you care about numbers? I mean, what's the deal? So he's impossible. It drives me crazy just even talking about Bill Russell because it's so hard to peg him. Olajuwon's. I mean, who else? I mean, we're not missing. I mean, are we missing anybody? Who am I missing that's a center?
I mean, I think you're going to have the conversation with Jokic and people like that coming.
One day. Yeah.
And I think Wembanyama could get that blocks record. He's definitely, he has the potential to get there. But people remember all the main players, the players of the 2000s and the 2010s. Where did they go to train? They went to work with Olajuwon.
Yeah.
Kobe did. LeBron.
Perimeter players. Kobe. Yeah. Perimeter players. Yeah. Right.
So there's something like he was great for the game. Great player, respectful. Just everything about him was, you want to. He's one of those ideal players, and I think they named the Defensive Player of the Year award after him.
Yeah.
I think. So hopefully that has longevity, but yeah, he's right around that number 5 spot, I think.
Agreed. Yeah. Let's show some of your if you've got some in hand.
Sure.
Let's show them. Let's show your Olajuwons. Then we'll close the book on Olajuwon. Then we'll talk about a couple of MJs if you got them. Let's talk through it. What you got?
Yeah, sure. So I'm definitely the legacies. I have. I don't know if you can see, but I have, a lot of the, most of the legacies.
Is there 7 legacy? Well, no, because Olajuwon will have an extra year, right?
Yeah. So I'm missing a few. He had 98. And so he had 4, 4, and 3. Yeah, I think.
But Jordan had 4 and 3, so he had
an extra 4.
Jordan has 7.
So Olajuwon has an extra 4.
Yeah, 11. Okay.
Well,
but that gets more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, some of my not, the, Ultra Stars Gold, one of my favorites. Profiles and these are many for Olajuwon. This is a pop 1, and there's so a lot of the it's even though Jordan is more expensive, his pop is higher because just not as many people are going to grade it. And a lot of these cards I found overseas. There were a lot of collectors from Australia and Japan in the mid 90s that were, they collect, because that was when they watched there too. So I've gotten a lot of cards overseas from people. Australia has unbelievable cards. Crazy,
I mean, look, USA, Australia, and then Asia. I mean, dude, and that, and those Australians give you a run for your money, man, especially in basketball cards. They got some hellacious collectors down there.
Right. The precious metal, this is the 96, but there's no 10s out there. Yeah. This is the gold refractor.
Of course.
Let's see, the essential credentials. These are, the quick strike.
10?
The 10, yeah.
Possible. What's that pop? That's got to be single digits.
3, I think.
Yeah. I was about to say that's just a miserable card.
The Fusion. This was a pop 1, and I had somebody who's someone pretty big collecting this set in a 10, so he wanted that card. This is my favorite autograph of him playing years because it's numbered. It's numbered.
That's autographics.
It's autographics, the blue, and it's numbered out of 50.
Wow.
And then Yeah, I'm trying to complete the triumvirate sets. I have the other ones in 9s, but they're hard to get. And then
was Olajuwon in how Jordan has the T1B, T9B? Was Olajuwon in Series 1 and Series 2 also?
yeah, he
and then he has another year though after, right?
Yeah,
that Jordan doesn't have.
This is 98.
Yeah, that's right. And look, those things, people aren't paying attention to that because Jordan's not in that set. Those things are badass, man. I saw an Iverson when I was like, oh my God, these look amazing.
Yeah, one of the ones that I think we both wish Jordan was in, the Apparitions
refractor, yeah.
Yeah, and I acquired it in a 10, which was like a pop 2.
Yeah.
But I've had some unfortunate stories in the hobby that would detract people from continuing, and that was one of them where it was lost through somebody else's fault. But the game jersey, he doesn't have a signed version.
No signed version for him. Okay.
I haven't seen it. This is the next year.
Yeah.
And then let's see, where's the and then and so then I acquired this masterpiece first. This was
I saw that one. Yeah, I saw that one on your IG page.
And then so then I have both the this
base and the legacy.
One is the base, one's the legacy.
Yeah. And that's a hellacious trio that you can say I've got, nobody else has got it. You got base, you got legacy, and you got the 101, man.
Yeah, no, that's definitely cool. And I just have I love picking up I'll pick up Olajuwon is just low pop in general in these PSA 10s. So picking up I don't know, the 92 prototype or I also do the oddballs. So I have a lot of the calling cards. He was on a lot of calling cards and things like that. So I have I just have tons of that stuff as well.
Do you have to do a lot of raw to grade?
Yes.
I figured you do in your PSA, obviously. So yeah, you pack them up, you ship them, you wipe them down, and do what I do.
Yeah, I've done a lot. ComC's been really great for that. Picking up a lot. You can pick up a lot of cards there and send it. Hope for the best. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's
look,
a lot. Yeah.
Noah, the cards that I like grading the most are the cards where even if it comes back to PSA 8. Mm-hmm. You're thrilled, right? Oh, yeah. Because you want it, like credentials, PMGs, illuminators, flare showcase, like raw cards where you just want a number, man. It doesn't have to be a 10. The ultra modern folks, it's like 10 or bust. For us, it's like, no, it's not necessarily that way. I mean, 10s are a grand slam home run, but it's not a 10 or bust. Like if I get an 8 or a 9 on a 93 Scoring Kings Jordan, I'm like, hell yes, I'll take it. I just don't want that minimum size, coming back.
Right. So I'd say that's the main difference with the big three and collecting other players is that the grade is important. Like if I get PSA 9s or 8s on some of these cards, it's very hard to make my money back unless it's an insert, something, a rare insert that everybody's chasing. So when I'm grading, I'm taking a chance, and I end up with a lot of PSA 7s and 8s of cards that are not worth what I graded them for.
Really?
So, oh yeah, a lot. I mean, a lot of the the early 90s, mid 90s, they're just a lot of cards like that like a Flare Hot Numbers PSA 8 is not not going to pan out.
Yeah.
And I think so. That's the difference with collecting Jordan. You can do that stuff. You can get a PSA 8 and you can still make your money. You can still be okay.
You'll be fine.
Right. Yeah. So, but now if I just want to put it in my collection, I'll grade it in as long, I'll put it in the collection.
Who, if it wasn't for, not if it wasn't for Olajuwon, but if you decided to add another PC into your rotation here, right? We know you dabble in Jordan. We're going to talk about some Astro stuff in a second. We're going to talk about some Jordan stuff in a second. And Olajuwon's clearly your main focus and the primary portion of your PC. If you had to pick another player from the 90s, let's just say you had a blank canvas and you wanted to start from scratch, who would it be?
Not Jordan, not Olajuwon.
Not Jordan, not Olajuwon.
I mean, it would probably be. I mean, Kobe has so many cards. I'd want it to be someone relevant. And I think Duncan is a great one. I mean,
Duncan would be fun.
Yeah, it was really great. It was encouraging when I saw what the Duncan is on a different level than Olajuwon, even in collecting, right? I think he's a step up.
Yeah.
But it was encouraging to see there was the 101 masterpiece that went on PWCC. Huge number. And then so encouraging to see other players get some recognition there. And I don't know. It's hard to, I think I just would gravitate towards sets. I think there are just so many unbelievable sets, and I
would too.
That's what I do. Yeah.
But then the issue is like you guys like you and me, we want that set in the PSA 10. That's where it gets expensive, but it also is where you're hedging risk, because it's real easy to move a complete insert set from the night. Like if you got a Hot Numbers PSA 10 complete set, I could sell that thing in 45 seconds. I could sell it before we get done on this video for sure. But in a PSA 9, it's like you're pulling teeth. Isn't that crazy how that much matters?
I think that's why. So if you have some investor gene in yourself, I think you're looking for scarcity. You're looking for what separates your cards from the others in the same. And I think PSA 10. It does that, and I do think it will make there's been crazy pricing for PSA 10. I think maybe the gap will shrink a little bit, but I think over time it's just like investing in blue chips, right? Investing in the S&P 500. You're going to do well long term, and I think it's the same thing with PSA 10 or investing in goats. And I think in terms of looking at investing now, looking at players now that are playing, I like kind of like, and I don't always stick to this rule, but a 10-year rule. Like if after 10 years, and start collecting their cards, so Jokic is just hitting 2015, right? That's his
right there.
So you've got, yes, you're going to pay more, but you're not going to pay.
You're also not going to swing and miss completely. You're not going to Ben Simmons it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Right. So
the dude. I mean, we just mentioned him in the same conversation with freaking Hakeem Olajuwon and Shaquille O'Neal for a reason. You're not going to miss on Jokic.
Right.
Jokic would be an interesting one. If I was going to collect one in the ultra modern, I've dabbled in Giannis. Jokic would probably be the one. I mean, obviously, and I'm sure you're the same way. Like, I want to collect Victor Wembanyama so bad. He's a can't miss. I can't do it, man. It's stuff is just too expensive, and it's stuff that's not really even relevant. Like, I'm not paying $10,000 for a blue prism, $199 PSA 10. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years from now.
I'm worried about some of these cards.
What are these cards going to be worth? I mean, there's so many cards, and you don't know which version is which. I mean, even Luka is hard to figure out with the different.
I'm glad you said that. It's a great segue. I've got a really big project, and Luka is my sample. Talking about, it's called the Hobby Tsunami. So I'll let you figure out what that's about. But I'm gonna get Chris McGill to come on here. We're gonna go counterpoint about overprinting in the ultra modern market and see where we end up. But I've been crunching some numbers, and they make me want to throw up. It makes me feel really good that I collect the decade that we collect. So tell me about your MJ stuff. So if you think Olajuwon somewhere in the 60 to 70% range of your PC, where's Jordan? What's Jordan comprised? I know set collecting is a big part of it as well, obviously, but where's Jordan fall?
I did sell a lot to about a year ago when the PSA 10 market really started going crazy. I did sell a lot, and I recently got back in, starting, sometimes there's great opportunities on Fanatics when sometimes they overload PSA 10s, Michael Jordans on a weekly auction. And I mean, there was one week a few weeks ago, there was 100. It was crazy.
It was 2 weeks ago. It was JoJo's stuff.
And so I was able to just go pick off 10 or 12 of them that they were well below the market. And I'm like, it's just a good time. So I think you got to find those. I think there's still incredible arbitrage opportunities. You've got tons of platforms, you've got shows, you've got I do things on. Have you ever done anything on Veriswap?
I had Raymond on the channel. When we talked about it, I never, I haven't yet.
It's interesting. I've traded stuff there there's just great arbitrage opportunities. And some cards, when I put up a Jordan there, it's like I get tons of offers on great stuff. And so, so I'm, the goal is just keep pushing. I think the goal is kind of that 50-50 with, 20% Jordan, 20% collected sets, and then baseball. I'm also like, in terms of, I put together this list of the 100 collectible cards in all sports that I think are iconic in any grade. And so I've been trying to go after that list, and that includes Mickey Mantle, includes Wayne Gretzky, includes, those kinds of cards too, because I think having, that's kind of like, I'm trying to build my mini, index. And just goal is get a card in A grade, and then just over time move up.
That's it.
And so I like having diversity also.
That's a great diversification model because it's so low risk. I mean, you're talking about the most in demand cards in the world. And you can incrementally bump up the grades at your leisure, as much as money you want to throw at it, you can bump it up. That's kind of what I've been doing with my Jordan collection, so I'll bump a grade here and there, especially recently. I've been bumping from PSA 8 to PSA 9 because the damn PSA 10s that I'm looking for, and there are no deals on any of the ones that I'm looking at, but it's fun. It's always fun to upgrade it. And some, BGS 9.5 min gems have become my best friend lately, if you've noticed, because those, some of those are 8-to-1 ratio with PSA 10, man.
The one thing I don't collect memorabilia, that much, but I do, I like things that I can put, that I can see. And Sports Illustrated was a big, thing in our day. And there's actually, surprisingly, I got into this a little bit, but these are extremely collectible. This is the highest grade. These are the highest grade, 9.8s, and they're about to start being graded by
ESA, right?
ESA. And so, these go for a lot of money.
Hey, you don't have to tell me. I collect the Jordan cover Beckett's.
Oh, you do? I just picked up one on Golden last week.
Yeah. I mean, I collect them in 9.8s, so I'm always looking. I don't look as hard as I should.
Yeah, they're fun. They're just like, I'd love one day, in a room bigger, to have just Sports Illustrated on the wall.
That would be so cool. Because he's on, how many covers is he on? Do you recall?
He's on 50.
How many?
50.
50. Okay.
So there are collectors, set collectors for his 50. And CGC is a terrible platform for for the registry. But one day, PSA is going to have it, and it'll be cool.
You'll be crossing them all over.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You'll get them 8.8. No, I'm just kidding. Tell me, let's talk about the Astros for the last 5, 6, 7 minutes, because growing up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, there was only 3 teams that, kids in Louisiana cared about. They cared about the Braves because they were on TBS. They cared about the Cubs because they were on WGN, or they cared about the Astros because it's as close as we can get to a Major League Baseball franchise. And so most people in Louisiana were Astros fans. So I do have a little bit of Astros knowledge from back in the day. I put together my list of 5 greatest Houston Astros of all time. I got to 3, and then I couldn't make any decisions after that. So I'm curious. I think number 1 and 2 are 1, 2, and 3. I don't think can even be argued. So give me your top 3, and we'll see if it matches up with my top 3 in some order.
Well, I mean, you got Biggio Bagwell.
2.
Yeah, I mean, you could go back and put Nolan Ryan on. You could put
that was my 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's now you look at players that I'm a big Astros fan. Like, of the sports I actually watch and go to, I go to a lot of games, and so now I think Altuve will be one. I'm a Jordan of baseball. I'm a Jordan collector. So
wow, okay.
Yeah, I have some of his best. This is his.
And you are literally all over the place. I'm so fascinated because my brain is so full of Jordan stuff. I can't go anywhere else. and you've got magazines, you got Jordan, Olajuwon sets. Now you're talking about Jordan Alvarez. I mean, I've heard of him. He must be pretty good.
Yeah, no. So I feel like collecting. I wanted to collect some Astros and things like that. Yeah. But yeah, Biggio, Bagwell. I mean, but their cards, and I have a whole bunch of their cards from the early '90s and they're rookies, but they're junk wax era. Yeah. And that's truly baseball junk wax.
Biggio's what, 88?
Is it 87 or 80? Yeah, 88. So he has a couple of cards. I mean, but you can. It's
look bad. If they printed even more 88 than 87, and they printed the hell out of 87.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're not fun to collect, the baseball ones. They just don't. And I've seen great cards, Biggio and Bagwell, come up, essential credentials and PMGs and stuff. It just doesn't interest me as much to do that as basketball. But
I wonder if one day that catches on. I mean, I know football started to catch a little bit with the 90s elite stuff like the PMGs and the credentials and rubies and stuff. I wonder if baseball hasn't really seemed to catch that spark yet.
Well, I think it will. There are some content creators on the baseball side.
Are there? Okay.
That have always been, collecting stuff from now, but like they're all starting to, like, these are guys our age and they're just talking about like 90s is so much fun to collect now. Going to collect and you can buy them for just great prices, beautiful cards, and so I do think they would be good investments long term. I mean, some of my favorite cards, that I haven't found Olajuwon, the 24 karat. Like I think if Jordan was in that set, oh my God.
Geez. Yeah, that's really hot lately. Are you talking about the Brilliance, the Fleer Brilliance?
Fleer Brilliance out of 24. That is,
everywhere.
That's harder to get than anything. But, I don't care what I think. If I had extra money to throw around and I was investing, I'd buy any 24 karat I could get. It doesn't matter, baseball, basketball, because there's gonna be somebody. There's only 24 of those, and there's gonna be somebody who's gonna want them at some point in time.
Where's that?
Just so few cards in some of these sets.
Yeah. So yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, the rest of my list, I had Lance Berkman, Altuve, Joe Morgan. I don't know if he played long enough for the Astros, and obviously he did most of his
rookie Astros, I think, yeah.
And how about Billy Wagner making the Hall of Fame? That was a really good deal. I think it was his last year eligible, and he made it, and so that was good.
I was a big Billy Wagner fan. I actually I did a little post on it. Yeah, I have a few of his cards, and to me, growing up, he was the closer, and a lot of people kind of hate on the fact when relievers get in. That's one thing I love about baseball, is that the Hall of Fame is so much harder to get into.
Yeah.
In any other sport, and so few players get in, and it's a big debate. In basketball, it's just much easier. Football is super easy, and so it's and there's collectors around baseball Hall of Fame players. So there's baseball. Once you make the Hall of Fame, everybody has to buy your rookie card. Like, just
always a spike every time. Yeah. It's like, why don't we just figure out who that? I've got a buddy here in town. I'm letting the cat out of the bag. He is certain that Giancarlo Stanton is going to hit 500 home runs. So he has loaded up on Giancarlo Stanton, hoping that the dude's hamstrings stay together long enough to hit 500 home runs, because I think by his measure, if you hit 500, you're in, right? Basically is the way he looks at it. And so he's loaded up on Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, you can definitely predict. There's so many projections now for players that are going to make it and not, and you just got to think about the era though too. I think they'll hitting home runs now is harder than I think it was back in the 90s. So I think he'll get in if he gets close. So
he will. Yeah. Any Olajuwon cards you're on the hunt for right now? We'll wrap it up with this one. Like, anything that's eluded you that you're like, I need this to show up at an auction, I'm ready to pull the trigger. Like, this is the one that I really can't wait to get my hands on.
I mean, again, it's those like a 24 karat, if that were to pop up, I would be all over that. But like even like an 87 Fleer PSA 10, there I think it's a pop 26.
Yeah,
And when they come up, there's the set collectors go crazy for it,
of course.
and they go, it can be a $10,000 card or something. And it's just,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. So it's some of those cards in the earlier years that if they, I think 89 Fleer sticker or something, just some really hard cards to get. And I actually, I at one time had I had a couple of the PSA 10 stickers from '86,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I had bought one of them, and I got a call from the FBI one day, and it was a
You should
fake.
have led with this, Noah. Come on, man. What's going on? This should have the first thing out of your mouth.
No, I have so yeah, and it was a beautiful, perfect copy. Bought it on my slabs. I got contacted. I'd sent it to PWCC to the vault. They stopped it. Like I got calls from PSA, PWCC, my slabs, FBI. They're still holding. I bought this card in 2021. It looked perfect. I mean, and so it was this group that had been doing it for a long time for a lot of cards. I ended up getting a call a few years later saying they finally found the guy. They arrested the group, and they were doing it on a massive scale. But PSA is still holding the card. They're not letting it go. So, there's definitely lots of that stuff out there.
Your card is being held hostage.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. So the best Olajuwon, well, I had the PMG Red, but the best Olajuwon card I ever had was, I guess, probably the PMG Red, or in my '86 Fleer set, I had the 5% sticker. It's the only 5% eye appeal sticker I've ever gotten, and it was PSA 10 5% sticker. It's the only. I sent 6 '86 Fleer sets in an airplane to Fanatics when I decided to vault all my stuff and get it out of my house here in Louisiana. And so what is that? 143 times 6 is what, 800, 900 cards, 5% sticker out of all those 86 Fleer eye appeals. One. So they're very judicious when they give those out.
Yeah, but I stay in my thing is I kind of stay away from those if I'm looking to buy them. Kind of like I don't need to.
You don't get any benefit out of it on the set registry.
No, I don't need to. If it comes with it, great. But I'm not paying the extra money like a BGS 10 to PSA 10. That doesn't mean anything to me. Right?
Same thing to me. Like, so I don't really.
Yeah.
I don't really chase like BGS 10. I would rather it be a PSA 10 than a BGS.
Right.
I'd rather be a BGS 9.5 than a BGS 10 because I don't need to pay triple for what I'm be comfortable with, in a 9.5.
Right.
So anyway, well, Noah, man, thanks for joining the channel. You definitely fit the bill of an Olajuwon super collector. There's a million more things I'd love to chat about and talk to, but we're at the hour mark. Again, y'all go follow him, NJJ_sports on Instagram. If you love Olajuwon, if you got any Olajuwon you want to sell, I am 100% positive Noah will happily receive your direct message on Instagram. And if you got Olajuwon questions, I bet he would be pretty helpful resource for you as well. Man, we got a lot of stuff in common. For sure, Noah. So hopefully our paths cross in the near future. I'm going to the Houston show this weekend. Believe it or not, I'm gonna be in Houston.
I'm not going to be there. I'm not. Not this time. I exhibited one time a few years ago, but I love that the TriStar show is great. I know that
how's it compared to Dallas?
I've never been to Dallas. It's going to be very different. You're going to see a lot of vintage.
Okay.
So if it's and it's a huge autograph thing. The TriStar is the I know the owner, and that's just it's just what they've done with the Elijah with the autograph thing is great. You'll see tons.
I saw the lineup. It's pretty damn. I mean, I don't collect autographs, but it's pretty damn impressive, and I can see traffic's going to be pretty heavy there. A lot of the stuff when I was buying my tickets was about all the different autograph package possibilities, and I was like, I just want the cheapest ticket.
There'll be about. I've heard there's going to be about like 350 tables. So you'll find stuff, and that's a great show if you're looking for Jordans. Just there won't be as many, but you'll find stuff, and there won't be as many people chasing it.
Yeah, so I'm excited about it. It just coincided with my kids' soccer tournament in Houston. I was like, oh my God, finally the stars. Usually I can't go to shows because I got soccer. Now I get to go to a show because my kids got soccer. So it's perfect. So I'm going to swing through Friday evening and hopefully spend way too much money and find some MJs I don't have.
Right.
Noah, thanks for joining the channel, man. Again, another great episode of Collector Spotlight in the books. Thank you guys for watching. Keep collecting. Stay positive in the hobby. And peace. Man.